All right, the last airport I want to look at, and the most complex sort of real-world traffic flow of these examples, is Reagan National. So, a very typical summer type traffic flow is runway 19 being used for most of the traffic, with 15 occasionally being used for regional jets. There's very little to no heavy aircraft traffic, so there's no segregation that's going on between 19 and 15 based on heavy. So we're going to have to, if we want to, and also there's very little like turboprop or general aviation propeller aircraft. So we're going to have to segregate the traffic using another method, and that's the minimum empty weight. So let's go ahead and program that. Okay, so for forced takeoff, let's reset the scratch data. Then KDCA, and 19 will be the prevailing takeoff runway, and 15 for some of the regional traffic. Let's go. We can go ahead and get the entered preferred taxiways. I have an add-on airport, for this. I have add-on scenery for this airport, so the taxiways are correct. So let's just say Kilo to 19. And November to 15. The thing about these preferred taxiways is it's not really, I have it, you can add it for a particular runway, but it's still going to be used for any taxi calculation for any runway. When you think about it, the preferred taxiways really aren't about one particular runway. It's about finding the shortest path to the runway you wanted to use based on the criteria you entered. So, but usually that corresponds to a particular runway. So I'm going to use minimum weights to accomplish a goal here. Regional jets, based on looking into it, usually weigh 80,000 pounds or less. So I'm going to restrict runway 15 to 80,000 pounds. Okay, and I'll have no restriction on 19. So, a mix of AI will use that runway based on, what I mentioned earlier, how close the AI at pushback is to the entry to the runway. So the thing about minimum empty weights is they can be found in the AI aircraft config, in your sim objects folder, and you can just peruse through them and sort of get a handle on, what a good value is for, say, regional jets. But bear in mind that sometimes the designers will have minimum empty weights that are much heavier or much lighter than you're expecting for an aircraft type, just because they're trying to reach your own design performance targets within the confines of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So that's some limitations with this. Like, for example, the AI set I'm working with here, really the only regional jets that are typically below 80,000 pounds are the CR jets, but the Embraer jets have a much heavier minimum empty weight specified in the AI set, not real world, but in the AI set. So this will work to some extent in that it will catch the CRJs, and they'll be departing from 15. But I want to go a little bit farther here. I don't want the runways selected based on distance that push back to the runway entry. So because this minimum weight is really going to restrict out a lot of traffic to runway 15, I want to give it a high probability so that I'll get a sprinkling of CRJ, basically CRJ traffic to 15, and then 30 for runway 1. And since runway 1 is not weight limited, it's actually going to end up getting the bulk of the traffic because the program's first is going to go 70%. Oh, okay, let's try 15. Oops, minimum weight limit. So we have to go with runway 1. But since there's such a high probability, it will try to select 2, and when it tries to select 2, sometimes it'll be for CRJ and it will meet the minimum weight requirement and it will choose runway 2. So TLDR, this type of, let me add it, this type of setting will result in most regional jet and jet traffic using 19 and the sprinkling of regional jets taking off runway 15. And for the landings, let me enter that again. It's 19 and 15, and it's the same idea here. There's going to be a minimum weight restriction on runway 1. To compensate for that very low minimum weight restriction, I'm going to give it a high probability and a lower probability to 1. However, what's going to happen is, just like for the takeoffs, most traffic's going to land on 19 with the sprinkling on runway 15, and that'll be regional jets, specifically CRJs, based on the typical minimum weights for CRJs in the AI aircraft set I'm using. One last thing, and this is custom approaches. I packaged some custom approaches for select airports, and for Reagan National, I have a custom approach for every runway that's typically used. That's 15, 33, 19, and 1. Like River, I have River Visual 19, Mount Vernon Visual 1, and then the RNAVs 15 and 33. And so that's automatically, if you have an active custom approach, it will automatically be selected if you enter that runway. So you can see here I entered runway 19. So if it selects runway 19 and it sees that there's an active custom approach for 19, it will select that custom approach. So since I have a custom approach for 19 and 15, and I'm specifying 19 and 15 here, it's going to be all custom approaches. Now, if you don't want to use the custom approach, just go into the custom approaches subdirectory here, and here are the DCA custom approaches. So if I wanted to disable, say, the River Visual 19 custom approach, just load it up, go down to approach active, change it to 0, press save. That's it. Now it's inactivated, and I might want to just rename it inactive, just to remind me that it's an inactive. And I could do that for 15 too. Approach active, nope. Save, and go ahead and label it inactive. Okay, so that's basically it. An additional issue regarding custom forced landing approaches is if you're selecting 2 runways, you don't want to select one runway associated with the custom forced landing approach and another runway not associated with the custom forced landing approach. That is because the custom forced landing approach takes precedence. The user built it, the user activated it. So the actual selection of the runway may not correspond to the parameters entered over here and may be unpredictable. The results may be satisfactory. This is just a heads up. The user can check it out in the sim and see how it's working out. So in this situation, I just inactivated the custom forced landing approaches for runway 19 and runway 15. So that's fine. The situation we have here is no active custom forced landing approaches for either runway. That's the normal situation. It's just regular forced landing approaches for both runway. Also fine would have been if I had never inactivated these custom forced landing approaches. That is, they were still active. So we would have had it active for 19, active custom forced landing for 19, river visual 19, and active custom for 15, RNAV 15. That's fine too. The selection will proceed normally according to these parameters. Gotta make sure I save the changes here. Apply all pending changes. Okay, thanks. If you have any questions, just send me an email to the address I have in the doc files. Thanks.